She was pushed to marry her brother, but what happened next surprised everyone. Today, we're going to look at another horrible case. This is an honor crime committed by close relatives. An honor crime is a severe criminal act, often but not always, committed against a female family member as punishment for bringing disgrace and dishonor upon the family. The offenses punishable by death at the hands of relatives can vary across different countries and cultures, but often include marital infidelity and apostasy. Each year, according to official statistics, around 5,000 such crimes occur worldwide. However, various women's rights organizations claim this number is at least 4 times underreported. What is most alarming is that often, the perpetrators face no punishment, and their actions are deemed justified. Police in countries where such crimes are common often ignore these acts. Although it is claimed that penalties for such actions have intensified in recent years, there are no official data to prove this. Samia Shahid's case in 2016 shocked the world. She was forcibly married off to a cousin she openly despised and sent to her ancestral homeland. However, she soon broke off this imposed union to marry for love, against her relatives' wishes, and paid the ultimate price for it. Her story drew intense public scrutiny, as she was a British citizen of Pakistani descent. Yet she met her tragic end in Pakistan, where the case was quickly suppressed, attempting to frame it as an unfortunate accident. The Shahid family story begins with Chaudhry Muhammad Shahid and Matiha Shahid emigrating to the UK in the mid-1980s from a small Pakistani village named Pandhuri, located in the Jhelum district of Punjab province. They moved to a foreign land seeking a better life and to escape the poverty they faced back home. In November 1987, their eldest daughter, Samia, was born in Bradford, West Yorkshire, England. A few years later, her younger sister, Matiha, was born. The head of the family started a car rental business, which later specialized in luxury vehicles, including high-end limousines. As his business grew, he helped 2 of his brothers and their families move from Pakistan to the UK. These relatives also started and successfully developed their businesses. By the early 2000s, one brother owned a chain of seafood shops, and the other ran a flower delivery and floristry company. The Shahid family became well known and successful in Bradford, becoming quite wealthy and influential. Samia and Matiha were born and raised in the UK, but their family strictly adhered to the traditions of their ancestral country, so the girls grew up with a mix of European and Pakistani cultures. The liberal English views and manners starkly contrasted with the strict rules of their ancestral country. For example, the girls were not allowed to drive a car, and their father closely monitored all their contacts and movements. Samia, the elder daughter, was her father's favorite and was considered daddy's girl. He spoiled her in every way, buying her expensive outfits and jewelry, and paying for her education at a prestigious university. She took great care of her appearance, using cosmetics from well-known brands, visiting beauty salons and spending a lot of money there. She worked part-time at a post office, but her father supported all her wants and needs. Often without her family's knowledge, Samia would rent a car and drive herself. She loved driving, felt confident behind the wheel, and couldn't understand why Pakistani traditions forbade women from doing so. She was headstrong and loved her freedom, but she tried not to upset her parents, following their rules as best as she could. Samia had many friends from school and university in England with whom she kept in touch. She was known as a bright, kind, and cheerful person. Despite having a life filled with love and abundance and seemingly having everything she wanted, she was deprived of the chance to make any decisions independently. She constantly sought her parents' and elder family members' approval, always considering their opinions. More than anything, Samia feared upsetting her father, whom she adored. However, the numerous prohibitions, fears, and strict rules meant she was never truly honest with her family. In 2012, her parents decided it was time for their eldest daughter to settle down, get married, start her own family, and have children. They insisted she go to Pakistan and marry, according to all the cultural traditions. They chose her cousin, Chaudhry Muhammad Shahid, whom she barely knew, as her groom. It's important to note that marriages between relatives and arranged marriages are quite common. Although not a strict requirement in Sunni Islam, the tradition is still honored. Samia knew that sooner or later her parents would choose a husband for her, leaving her with no choice. She was prepared for this, understanding the inevitability of such a marriage, but her father's choice was truly shocking to her. Shakil was openly distasteful to her and even caused her some repulsion. Additionally, he had recently been released from prison after serving time for ending someone's life over a land dispute. Since childhood, Samia occasionally interacted with Shakil as if he were a brother, but she could never imagine him as her spouse. Notably, her own parents were also cousins whose marriage was arranged by relatives, but they managed to genuinely fall in love and build a happy family. Her parents believed that their daughter would experience the same fate and that she and Shakil would eventually fall in love. Despite her aversion to the groom, Samia could not disobey her father and understood how important this was to her family. However, her mother and younger sister Matiha later claimed that no one forced her into the marriage. Given her complex and headstrong character, it would have been impossible to do so physically or morally. They insisted she married voluntarily without any coercion. In early February 2012, the decision about the upcoming wedding was finalized at a family council. Over the next couple of weeks, her parents, aunt, and uncle, her future in-laws, took Samia shopping. She chose everything she liked, and they paid for expensive outfits, jewelry, accessories, cosmetics, and more. Samia was denied nothing, but it all felt as if she was being purchased. Likely that was indeed the case. The bride pretended to be caught up in the wedding preparations, but inwardly she felt like a hostage. She already understood that this marriage would not bring her happiness, but would be a real punishment. However, she could only discuss this with her friends, not her family. At home, she needed to appear happy, discuss the details of the upcoming celebration, and prepare for her departure to Pakistan. On February 20th, 2012, the young woman boarded a plane and, while in the cabin, sent a message to a close friend saying she was flying thousands of miles to make the biggest mistake of her life, but she had no choice. Later, Samia sent several more messages where she confessed that just seeing the groom made her feel sick, and she couldn't stand being near him. On February 27th, a big wedding was held for Samia and Chowdhury in Pandori, attended by about 1,000 people. The celebration lasted 4 days. As a wedding gift, her parents gave the newlyweds their own luxurious 2-story house, located next to their family home in the same province of Pandori. However, Samia felt that this beautiful and rich house would become a prison for her, where she would have to live with a man she did not love. Life in this new home, predictably, did not make Samia happy. She still disliked her now lawful husband and realized she could neither love this man nor even get used to him. But 4 months later, in mid-June 2012, Samia returned to her native Bradford to handle some issues and to help her husband with the immigration papers for obtaining British citizenship. She was supposed to apply for a spousal visa for Shakil, but she was not rushing with this. She enjoyed the illusion of freedom and the chance to not see her unloved husband for some time. When Samia finally started processing the documents, she discovered that their wedding ceremony, though conducted according to the rules of Sharia, was just a marriage contract between Muslims and had no legal standing in the United Kingdom. To make the marriage recognized, a civil ceremony and an official document, a marriage certificate, were needed. Friends of Samia noticed changes in her character and behavior after she returned from Pakistan. Samia seemed sad, her eyes appeared dull. She was no longer the joyful and sociable person she once was. Samia clearly felt deep resentment towards her parents. Any talk about her husband or family life made her irritated and angry. The problem was that Shakil was very jealous and tormented his wife, even from another country. He often called her and demanded that she video chat with him at any time. This was how he kept track of where she was, what she was doing, and who she was with. It also showed his control and power over her. In early August of that year, during a phone call with a close friend, Samia confessed that she was very stressed. She felt completely drained and no longer wanted to live because she had lost all joy, hope for happiness, and a bright future. She said she hated Chowdhury with all her heart and never wanted to see him again. However, she couldn't tell this to her relatives. They only talked about the lavish wedding they had arranged for their eldest daughter. In early September, without having resolved the issues with the spousal visa, Samia had to return to Pakistan to her unloved husband. She often wrote to friends about how miserable she was, how much she hated her marriage, and how she felt trapped with no way out. This continued for several months, but then she began to complain less frequently, and her mood changed. During her next visit to the United Kingdom, it became clear what had caused this change. It turned out that she had met a young man online, Syed Mukhtar Kazim, who, like her, was a British citizen of Pakistani origin. He was born and raised in London, but had been working and living in the United Arab Emirates for the last few years. Samia and Syed started communicating and quickly developed romantic feelings. They secretly planned a meeting, and in October 2013, they met in person for the first time. Samia immediately felt that Syed was the man she wanted to spend her life with. He was kind, caring, attentive, and romanced her beautifully. They shared many common interests, but they were both aware of the dangers and risks involved in their relationship. Despite the risks, life felt meaningful to them only when they were together. Samia openly shared her difficult situation with Syed and expressed her readiness to end her marriage to begin a new life with him. However, getting a divorce through a British court wasn't an option because, according to local laws, her marriage wasn't legally recognized. In the spring of 2014, Samia approached Shakil for a divorce, but he bluntly refused, claiming she would always belong to him. During another visit to the UK to see her parents, she secretly reached out to a local Islamic Sharia council. She reported that she had been forced into the marriage, which is a valid ground for annulment. She also converted from Sunni to Shiite Islam, which was the sect of her new partner. The cleric from the council contacted Samia's husband to hear his side of the story regarding their marriage. However, he rudely refused to discuss his personal life and denied permission for a divorce. Following this, the Islamic Sharia Council in the UK dissolved the marriage, acknowledging that Samia had been coerced into it by her family. Samia's family was unaware that she had divorced her husband in absentia and was planning to remarry the man she truly loved. In September 2014, she secretly married her new partner, and this marriage was legally valid with a marriage certificate to prove it. The ceremony was officiated by the same cleric who had annulled her previous marriage, and only a few close friends knew about the event. Samia felt like she was living a fairy tale, finally happy and in love. However, this happiness soon turned into a nightmare filled with family disputes and threats. When Shakil found out that Samia had remarried, he was furious and demanded her return to Pakistan. Samia informed him that she was no longer his wife, showing him her new marriage certificate. This news enraged Shakil even more, leading him to call her father and spark a major family scandal. Despite threats from her family to return to her previous husband, Samia stood firm in her refusal, which led to tragic consequences. A few weeks later, while shopping with her sister, Samia was brutally attacked. Her sister escaped harm, but Samia was severely beaten with metal bars, nearly breaking her legs. The police took her statement but were unable to catch the attackers, and the case was quickly dismissed. At the same time, Syed had to travel to Dubai for work, leaving Samia alone in the UK, anxiously waiting for a visa to join him. During this period, she faced endless threats, constant disputes with her relatives, and lived in fear for her life. Additionally, her parents attempted to invalidate her divorce from Shakil and caused trouble with the cleric who had married Samia and her new husband. Samia's mother was particularly upset and confrontational. Samia's mother harshly criticized her, claiming she had brought shame to their family and warned of dire consequences. In the spring of 2015, Samia finally got her visa and was able to fly to Dubai to be with her husband. It felt more like fleeing, as she feared her family would do everything possible to stop her and force her back to Pakistan. For months, she safeguarded her passport with friends who also helped her purchase a plane ticket and accompanied her to the airport to begin a new chapter. The next year was the happiest in Samia's life. She cherished her newfound freedom and the ability to make her own choices, living with the man she loved, who adored her and treated her with great affection. Additionally, she could drive a car, an activity her parents and former husband had always forbidden. In social media photos, Samia appeared radiantly happy, flourishing, and it was evident she had realized her dreams. Samia and her husband were excited about the future and planning to start a family, but their bliss was not to last. Meanwhile, back home, her family was plotting against her. Right after her departure, her parents filed a missing persons report with the police, which they later sought to change to an abduction, accusing her husband, Kazim, of the crime. The Shahid family concocted plans to force Samia back by any means necessary, exploring various strategies. Since threats were ineffective, they considered exploiting her emotional vulnerabilities. In a dark twist, in June 2016, Samia's parents delivered tragic news. Her aunt, Shakil's mother, had died. Samia was heartbroken and even considered going to Pakistan for the funeral, but she knew the risks. Many family members still hadn't accepted that she had left her first husband and remarried. Her actions were seen as betrayal and disgrace. A week after the aunt's funeral, her mother called again, reporting that her father's health had worsened severely. He had diabetes, and his condition had recently become unstable. Samia knew she would never forgive herself if she didn't see him, fearing he might pass away. Despite her concerns and her husband's attempts to dissuade her, she decided to travel to Pandori, promising her husband to keep in constant contact for her safety. On July 14, 2016, Samia arrived in Pakistan and first went to a close friend's house. She left her passport and return ticket to Dubai with her friend, shared her fears, mentioned her bad premonition, and asked her friend to pray for her safe return. The next few days were relatively peaceful. She stayed in touch with her husband and friend, updating them on her whereabouts. She visited her aunt's grave with her family and met many relatives. She was scheduled to fly back to Dubai on July 21st. However, on July 20th, Samia suddenly stopped making contact. Tragic news came on July 20th, 2016. Chaudhry Mohammed Shahid called the police station to report his daughter's tragic death. When the police arrived at the house where Samia had lived with her first husband, they found her lifeless body at the bottom of the stairs. Unfortunately, it was too late to help her. There were visible bruises on her body, which, according to her parents, happened from falling down the stairs, and a small amount of pinkish foam was found coming out of her mouth. According to her father, Samia might have had a heart problem that caused her to fall and roll down the stairs. Because no one was home at the time, she didn't receive prompt assistance and subsequently passed away. When questioned about the whereabouts of Samia's husband, Chaudhry mentioned that he was out on business. The police didn't find any evidence of foul play at the scene and thus didn't initiate a criminal investigation, leaving the final determination to forensic experts. An autopsy performed the same day revealed no signs of violence, and it was concluded that her death was due to natural causes. She was buried just a few hours after her death. Samia's sudden death didn't raise suspicions, except from her grieving husband, Kazim. When Kazim was informed that his wife had died suddenly from what was claimed to be a heart attack, he was in disbelief. The press even reported her death as a suicide, attributing it to her depression over being unable to have children. However, Shahid's relatives contested this, claiming she lost consciousness on the stairs and broke her neck from the fall. Syed Mukhtar immediately flew to Panduri and went straight to the police station to assert that his wife had been murdered by her own relatives and her ex-husband. He detailed the forced marriage, her subsequent escape, and the threats she had received from her family. This new information significantly altered the nature of the case. The authorities recognized it as an honor killing, but Samia had already been buried, and the official report declared her death as natural. Nevertheless, since Samia was a British citizen, Kazim sought the involvement of European law enforcement and the media to further investigate the matter. Initially, Samia's father agreed to an interview and tried to depict Syed Mukhtar as a fraud and a blackmailer. However, when the young man presented their marriage certificate and a copy of the medical report with post-mortem photos of Samia, authorities initiated an investigation. The report highlighted bruises on Samia's neck and legs, and traces of male seminal fluid were found on her body, suggesting she had intimate relations shortly before her death. This raised questions about who she was with, since Shakil was supposedly not at home that day. Kazim held a press conference, sharing all the evidence he had, including text, voice, and video messages from Samia, where she repeatedly expressed fear for her life. Suspicions arose that the police might have been bribed, and Samia's father and former husband were immediately detained. It became clear that they had no intention of letting her return to Dubai. They forcibly took her to the house that was given as a wedding gift and searched all her belongings for her passport and ticket, which, as mentioned earlier, she had left with a friend. A furious Shakil, with his father-in-law's quiet approval, physically restrained Samia, and after she tried to escape, they caught her on the stairs. Her former husband strangled her with her scarf while her father held her legs, giving her no chance to survive. This version of events was confessed at the police station by one of the perpetrators, although Chaudhry Mohammed denied any involvement in the crime against his daughter. During the legal proceedings, besides the father and former husband, Samia's uncle, who had obtained a forged report before the autopsy, and the commissioner who conducted the initial investigation, were also detained. In court, Shakil recanted his confession, claiming it was made under pressure. Shakil spent just over 2 years in jail but was released on bail in September 2018. In 2019, he remarried and tried to move to the United Kingdom again, but he was unsuccessful. Samia's father was in prison from July to December 2016 and was also released on bail. He passed away in January 2018 at the age of 52 due to worsening health issues, and he never admitted any guilt or involvement in his daughter's death. Samia's uncle and the commissioner were also released in the fall of 2016 without facing any consequences. Shortly afterward, arrest warrants were issued in Pakistan for Media and Matiha Shahid, but Samia's mother and sister quickly returned to Bradford. Later, Meecha gave a significant interview in which she tried to discredit Samia and her second husband, blaming them for the breakdown of the once happy Shahid family. If you found this story impactful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories. Your engagement helps us bring more awareness to these critical issues. Comment your thoughts, share this story with others, and join our community to stay updated for more stories. Let your voice be heard. Every like, comment, and share makes a difference.